Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of the ages, welcome back to another reaction. Today we have something a little different. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, okay? So, what we're doing today is firing a plasma cannon. Firing a plasma cannon. Let's get into it.
Have you ever wanted to throw a lightning bolt at something? Well, as it turns out, it's technically quite possible to do. Today we're going to fire this directed energy device that I built a while back. I call it the Lorentz cannon. The cannon is supported by a 240,000 volt pulse forming tower called a Marksbank, which delivers an electrical power pulse of several gigawatts to the 30-barrel armature gun mounted on top.
An electric Gatling gun. How about that, huh? An electric Gatling gun.
The gun then initiates a plasma channel through the air at current levels found in natural lightning and can direct this plasma channel towards any grounded target. Now you might be wondering, why would anyone build such a thing? Well, back in the day when I lived at survival research labs, my task was to make electrical devices that could somehow interact with the machines. But these machines were often quite violent and unpredictable, and they were usually loaded with weapons and explosives.
Quick question. Have you
That's
heard about
nuts.
Google Wireless? Their Simply Unlimited plan costs only $80 a month for
So how could you arm an electrical device to survive in such a hostile environment? The answer? Use pulsed power. And if that doesn't work, use more pulsed power. Now, capacitor banks are a cheap and cheerful way to blast objects with hundreds of megawatts, or shower large areas of machines with molten metal. But to blast an object with capacitors usually involves running very heavy cables, and dragging these heavy cables up to a fast and mobile machine wouldn't be very practical at all. So I wondered, could you somehow direct a lightning bolt at a hostile machine instead? I'd read about lightning
Here's where we're going to learn some science, people. We're going to learn some science, I think.
researchers who could direct lightning bolts to the ground by firing rockets trailing a thin wire. But how can a hair-thin wire possibly carry tens of thousands of amps? This is where the Lorentz force comes to the rescue. When you pass current through a wire, a magnetic field forms around it. Lorentz found that this field produces a force that compresses the conductor, which increases with the square of the current. Now normally, if you tried to pass 10,000 amps through a thin wire, it would instantly vaporize. But if the current rises fast enough, the Lorentz force grows faster than the explosive force, and it contains the hot plasma into a super dense channel. It's a great trick, but there's a catch. In order to get the current to rise that fast, you need to hit it with a rather large voltage pulse, and a fast one to boot. Now this is easy for a storm cloud to do, since it has hundreds of millions of volts available. But I wondered, could mere mortals pull off such a feat? As luck would have it, SRL had recently rescued a bunch of 20,000 volt capacitors from the scrapyard. But some quick calculations revealed
Rescued them?
that we needed over 120,000 volts to produce a fast enough edge. So to get 120,000 volts out of 20,000 volt caps, I borrowed the Marksbank approach used to power the Z machine. Now a Marksbank is a clever way to multiply voltage by almost any amount. Here's how it works. First, all of the caps get charged in parallel to 20,000 volts through the liquid ballast tubes. Then an array of spark gaps fires them in series, effectively multiplying the original voltage by the number of levels. So I started on the Marksbank design and stacked all of the 20,000 volt caps that we had into an 8-foot-high Marksbank weighing 4,000 pounds. Then Tim Wellington and I started on the plasma gun itself, which featured a heavy brass front striker plate for the high current plasma channel and 30 barrels for good measure, which seemed enough for a full SRL show. For acquiring targets on the killing floor, we gave the cannon actuators for both panning and tilting, and an aiming laser located in the central tube. Then we assembled all of the Canon parts in the SRL yard and tried some test shots. It worked! And it trashed my black and white Vidicon camera in the process. But at full capacitor voltage, the gun could only create a stable plasma channel about 15 feet long. So of course we kept turning the voltage up, increasing the range, but unfortunately the scrapyard caps were already at their end of life, and stressing them to 120%.
I hope nobody gets hurt doing this. Looks fun. It looks fun.
Quickly resulted in many violent capacitor failures. So we needed to find new and better caps, and lots of them. But turns out they weren't cheap. And even used, just one of these energy storage caps cost more than my pickup. Well, it took me a minute to find another set of capacitors, but I finally had the good fortune to come across these. Here in the future, there are much beefier third-generation capacitors available, allowing more than double the drive voltage of the old bank, and peak currents well into the range of lightning strikes. So let's pick up where we left off. The ranging test back then yielded a 25-foot range, but by overloading the old caps to 120,000 volts. Today, let's see if we can reach 35 feet with 150,000 volts. I'll be operating the Canon and the Marksbank from the relative safety of the operator's console.
This looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But this guy's really out here firing plasma cannons. This sounds fun. Tell me if you wouldn't want to do this.
Here, but with heavy eye and ear protection nonetheless. So first we acquire the target, then start charging the Marksbank. The top scale on this high voltage divider is calibrated to show the final output voltage. 150,000 volts is right about here. Okay, the bank is charged and ready to fire. 3, 2, 1. Ah, that familiar shockwave. I just hope the neighbors aren't too upset.
You have to slow it down to like 120 frames a second just to get that little thingy. But that was pretty neat though. You see that little one little bullet come out, one little charge come out and just created that large thing. Now let's see what kind of damage it's done.
Looks like I need to adjust the aim compensator upwards a bit. At this energy, the shockwave easily rips the target away and leaves a bit of a flame even. You can definitely tell that a stable plasma channel formed since it blew a hole in the plywood, and the peak current reached tens of thousands of amperes, and the Marksbank completely discharged its energy, and it was loud as hell. The echo off those buildings about a half mile from here kind of sounded like distant thunder. Now let's try doubling the energy delivered to the target. 210,000 volts is about double the energy of 150,000 volts. Our meter here only goes to 200,000, but it'll still give us a good estimate.
That needed look like it went past 200,000. It did go past 200,000, but wow. And let's see what happens. Let's see if this board gets destroyed.
3, 2, 1.
Whoa! Very nice, very nice.
It looks like doubling the energy had an effect.
8x.
As we can see, The target has now achieved a high state of division. But how did this happen? We can discover why by slowing down the video about 6,000 times. With double the energy, the shockwave has now gone supersonic, with wooden shrapnel departing at about 1,200 feet per second. The target simply can't move out of the way in time, and is shredded to bits. Finally, how effective is the plasma cannon against electronics hidden inside hostile machines? This TV that I found in e-waste should provide a good indication. The cathode ray tube still lights up, which will provide us with useful diagnostics. Okay, we're ready to fire with a full...
A TV. He's going to blow a TV up. Oh my goodness. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's find out.
210,000 volts on the bank. 3, 2, 1.
Is this the best survival game ever made?
Yeah, I know. I have to get
This is
premium.
the aircraft carrier shelter you see.
The plasma channel didn't penetrate the front of the CRT, but simply went around it and connected directly with the deflection circuits inside. Those circuits then launched through the top of the television.
That's what you call a component-seeking missile.
Here's a close-up of the plasma channel connecting with the TV in slow motion. Note that at this speed, we can actually watch the electron beams scanning out the test pattern on the screen.
Burned up the back of the globe.
The electronics hidden inside the TV were adversely affected by the plasma channel. So I was surprised at just how fast the plasma cannon range scaled with increasing drive voltage, and how much explosive force the shockwave can deliver to a target. The data suggests that a plasma cannon with just a 30-foot high Marks tower could achieve a quarter-mile range. That would be a fun follow-up project indeed, but I'll have to save that one for after I win the lottery.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. That was a very good video, and hopefully you learned some science in that one too, because I didn't know a lot of that stuff. And it was pretty neat watching that cannon blow some stuff up. If you want to see me do more stuff like this, the plasma stuff and all this science stuff, just let me know. Just let me know. We're going to go down the rabbit hole of finding different things, okay? Let me know what you think in the comments. You know what to do. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of the ages, ciao.